Hello new starters, here we are again. Earlier in this week I needed to get some printing done, and I took the file out to the family computer where the printer is attached and went to print it off and discovered that the printer wasn't working. Well, I became a little bit concerned about that because I have a major assignment due for university and it needed to be printed off by the end of the week. And I communicated that situation to my wife, and she decided that she was going to get a new printer. It's been a long time since we got a new printer, and she decided that that is what we would do. The printer that she got is a printer that is Wi-Fi enabled and able to be connected to all the computers in the home at once, which is something that would be really helpful. I am not 100% confident always of my ability to work with computers and with networks. And so I was a little bit concerned about putting it together, but I figured I'd work it out. But then on the weekend, my son came home for a couple of days, and I asked him if he would mind putting it together for me, and he didn't, and he put it together, and it worked very well, very quickly, and I was deeply satisfied. In fact, I noted that there was a spring in my step because I didn't have to face that stressful situation trying to work out A, how to install the printer, or B, where would I get the printing done if I couldn't get it installed. And so I sensed a little spring of joy in my heart. It is interesting that having our needs met is an important part of feeling valuable. Now, not everything that is a need that we think is a need necessarily has to go met, but if you go through an extended period of time of not having your needs met, it does impact how you feel about yourself and about your sense of worth. In the 6th chapter of John, John writes a couple of stories that are designed to tell us something very, very specific about this Jesus in whom he invites us to believe. And the first story is that famous story, the feeding of the 5,000. And John goes through the details very quickly. Then he moves on to a story of Jesus coming to the boat with his disciples in it in the middle of a storm and walking across the water and dealing with the storm. In both of those situations, there are very real needs that are being presented, and Jesus is the one that is able to respond to the need and meet the need. And interestingly, when the crowd gathers around him, he says to them, "You're not coming to see me because I did a miracle. You're coming to see me because you were fed." In other words, because you felt your needs are being met. He then goes on to say that they were looking for bread, but that he was the bread of life, and a very clear indication that what he was saying is that he is the one that meets the ultimate needs of life. And he says, as he brings John brings this chapter to a conclusion, he says that as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who eats me, me as in the bread, he also will live because of me. This is the bread which came down out of heaven, not as the fathers ate and died, but he who eats this bread will live forever. And so Jesus is saying, and John is inviting us to believe in this Jesus, is the one that meets our needs at a scale that is unfathomable. The promise here is not just that our lives will go on living for eternity, but that there is a quality of life that Jesus offers us that is communicated by the phrase eternal just as much as the length of life is indicated by that. It's a quality of life of having our needs met at the very most deep foundational level. And it's another way that we come to understand that God is trying to communicate to us our deep worth to him and how much he loves us and values us. And so as you go out into this week, go out as one who is hearing the promise that Jesus says, "I am going to meet your needs."